So here's the question. As a real estate investor, how do you build a business that you're excited to show up to every day while you constantly grow your stream of passive income that you and your family can depend on for life without having to leave your computer or even live somewhere that houses are affordable? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Brian Elwood.
What's up, guys? Brian Elwood here, and welcome back to another episode of the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. I hope everybody's doing fantastic today. The sun is back out here in Colorado after a stint of rainy weather, and it feels good because it's always sunny here, and when it leaves, I get depressed. I think I'm addicted to sunshine after having moved here. The crazy thing is that at the time of this, I'm recording this in the first week of October, and last night it just snowed 12 inches in the mountains that are only a little over an hour away from me. So they're predicting an early open for the ski resorts this season, probably mid-October. So I may actually get to snowboard here in just a couple weeks, which will be awesome because snowboarding is my favorite sport of all time. Anyways, on the last episode, we talked about cyclical versus linear markets, and I talked about creating a lot of my net worth by investing in cyclical markets when the time was right. But there's more to the story. And so I want to kind of dive into how I was able to make that happen and what you guys should do if you want to do that too. So first off, let's discuss what this concept of net worth really means, because it's important to distinguish it from cash flow, which is the other metric. So those are the two things that I always pay attention to with my finances: is what is my net worth and what is my monthly or yearly cash flow. So net worth is just what all of your assets that you own are worth, and you minus all the liabilities that you owe. So if you own a property that's worth 100 and you owe 50 grand on it, then you've got $50,000 of equity in that property or $50,000 of net worth. And if you have credit card debt or, a car loan or anything like that, you have to subtract all of those from your net worth. And if you have cash in the bank, that's an asset you add to your net worth. But really, we're kind of just talking about net worth in the form of real estate on this episode. So in cash flow, on the other hand, the other metric is how much monthly net cash flow do you have coming in each month or year, however we want to look at that. So if you make $5,000 a month in passive income net in your pocket, that's $60,000 a year. That's your cash flow. And to me, that's the most important metric or KPI that you need to be tracking as an investor. But the second most important one is net worth, because net worth, although it's not spendable in the form of real estate, in theory, you can liquidate your equity or net worth in your property holdings and roll it into better investments, or even just use it to live off of if you had an emergency. Like, for example, if you have a net worth of $500,000 and it only costs you $50,000 a year to live, then you literally have 10 years of financial security built into your net worth. If you had to, you could liquidate everything you own and get that $500K and live off of it for 10 years and just watch Netflix and eat Doritos for 10 years and do nothing, and you would still have enough money to pay your bills. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you're not the type of person who would do that, but it is nice to know that you could if you wanted to. The amount of time that you can go without working on your based upon your savings or whatever is referred to as your financial runway. So it's good to know, how long is my financial runway? If I didn't make another dollar starting today, how long could I go before I would run out of money? And of course, our ultimate goal is to really make that runway endless by having enough passive income come in each month to cover whatever that amount is that you need, so that you would never have to liquidate properties and dip into your net worth, but instead you just live off of the income that comes in on automatically from your properties. So the way that I was able to gain the most appreciation in my portfolio was, first of all, investing in a cyclical market at the right time. But really, to multiply that, to add the multiplier kind of effect to it, I've always bought all of my rentals on the fringe. And what I mean by that is on the fringe of the new growth. So if you go into a town like Nashville, Tennessee, that's rapidly growing, you'll drive on certain streets where all the houses are really nice and look almost historic, and it's like they've been nice for a long time, and they're too nice and expensive to tear down, and there's not a lot going on those streets. There might be a few rehabs going on, but that's about it. So that's not where you invest. Then you go out a little further, and there's streets where there's a lot of tear downs happening. There's a lot of rehabs going on. The street is quite a mix of, brand new houses and rehabs, and then old shitty houses that need attention, that need to be torn down or rehabbed or whatever. And if there's already a lot of activity in those areas, then you still need to go out a bit further. And again, we're getting to the fringe here, basically. So where I ideally want to invest, if I'm just giving it to you in a nutshell, is that if you find those areas where there's a lot of investor activity, you see a lot of new houses being built and stuff like that, then you want to go anywhere from 1 to 10 streets away from that, just to kind of give you a rough, guideline within that same neighborhood. So you do need to understand neighborhoods and where borders happen. Neighborhoods, they get their borders in interesting ways. It can just be an arterial kind of a divider street, or an interstate, or a body of water like a river. There's a lot of weird ways that neighborhoods just kind of define themselves, but it does have a lot to do with values in houses. It's little pockets that you kind of see. You look at it, there will be kind of some boundaries around it a lot of the time that sort of define that pocket. And so thinking about investing in terms of pockets is wise. And I like to find where all the activity is happening within a certain pocket, and then maybe go 5 or 10 streets out from that where there's not a lot or hardly any activity on those streets, and buy houses for really cheap and hold them for rentals. And then down the road, you can just sell it for a lot more, so someone can tear down and build new there, or you can rehab it and sell it yourself, because it would sell for dramatically more once that new growth reaches the area that you bought in. Gentrification is a hot term that defines, basically areas kind of getting tons of restaurants and coffee shops and just people with money moving into areas that did not previously have money. It brings a lot of neat other stuff to that area, a lot of money to the area, and a lot of that money goes towards buying the real estate there. So finding areas that are gentrifying and buying on the fringes of those areas in a market that is not peaking is really one of the most easy and powerful ways to create wealth. I mean, there's houses that I bought 5 years ago for $30,000 that are already worth $150,000. And I've just been renting them out that whole time. And I just got lucky, honestly, buying on the fringe of a bunch of growth that was happening in gentrifying areas. So realize that this kind of strategy of buying on the fringe, it only applies in cyclical markets where it's gentrifying and a lot of activity is happening. You also don't need to be the very first person. They call those people the pioneers or the ones with the arrows in their backs. There's always an investor who's willing to take that risk and be the first guy to build a new house or renovate a house in a really rough area and just cross their fingers. It's really better, in my opinion, to be maybe the second or third person onto a new street or a new part of a neighborhood that no one's done anything with yet, because the first guy that was there really, he'll show whatever he or she does, what it sells for will show you what that area will bring. And then you can kind of come in and ride their coattail a little bit after that. Remember that at the end of the day, this game of buying on the fringe or whatever is just to hopefully get some icing on the cake. At the end of the day, you always invest for cash flow first. You don't buy things just hoping that they will go up. Everything you buy to hold needs to make sense from a cash flow perspective. You wouldn't write checks to keep a property afloat and just crossing your fingers hoping that the market will go up. The property should make you money from the day you buy it. You should buy it with equity in it, and you should buy it where when you rent it out, it's going to put money in your pocket each month. And then if it goes up, then that's awesome. And you just made a bunch of extra money that's going to help explode your portfolio. So in summary, this episode, I'm telling you to strategize for that to happen. I'm telling you to strategize to put the, chips in your favor, so to speak, for the house to go way up in value. There's ways you can research markets and neighborhoods and pockets and find where the growth is and invest on the fringe and things will work out really good for you. But at the end of the day, if the house does not cash flow, you move on to the next one. Cash flow and making sure it works as a rental is a non-negotiable criteria that your property must meet, or you move on. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you have not left a review yet, I'd really appreciate it. You can go to iTunes and leave me a review. And if you want me to answer one of your questions on a future episode, email me brian@brianlwood.net. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Want more? Get your free copy of Brian's book that is changing real estate businesses everywhere. Just go to www.fireyourself.net. Also, register for your free virtual real estate investing online masterclass at virtualinvestingclass.com.